Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. I'm Mick Cornett along with Kent Myers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues, and we welcome back an old friend.
Yes, we're really pleased once again to welcome Barry Tramel to the set. We're going to just have a potpourri, if you will, of sports discussions. We're going to talk about all kinds of different sports, things that are going on, and Barry's always up to date on it, and we're really pleased he'd give us time to come back.
Barry Tramel, today's guest in The Verdict. We'll be right back.
I've known I was going to be an artist since I was a little kid. I still have teachers that in grade school that still have my artwork. I think I told them something along the lines, keep that, it's going to be worth money someday. I'm Justin Mader, I'm an artist, and I'm Chickasaw. My muse is the Muskokean, Mississippian art. When I see that, my mind just fills up with bubbles of ideas. My big thing right now is shell carving, the shell gorgets. My work is refined more and more until I found my own rhythm. I also do metallurgy, where I've been acid etching copper and hammering copper to make a copper repoussé. You only have one chance to do it right, so it requires a lot of planning and thought and just patience. My Chickasaw heritage is the foundation of who I am. It's the roots of where I come from, and it inspires me as an artist and inspires the tenacity of never giving up.
Learn more about today's Chickasaws at profilesofanation.com.
It's a North American energy revolution. We're the fastest growing source of new oil and natural gas supplies in the world.
The shift to North American energy will create approximately 3 million jobs.
All that money we've been sending overseas, $400 billion a year. Imagine that staying in our economy. It's a game changer.
Real energy independence starts now. And it starts with Oklahoma.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Today we're really pleased to welcome back to the set of The Verdict, as Mick called him at the very beginning, an old friend of ours, and that he is. Barry Tramel did his undergraduate work at the University of Oklahoma, has been a journalism professional all his adult life, started out at the Norman Transcript and has now been at the Oklahoman for 20 plus years as a writer and occasionally an editor and all other things there that the Oklahoman might need. He's very well respected, knows all what's going on, knows where all the bodies are buried, if you will, in sports, and we were going to find that all out today from Barry. Barry, welcome back.
Hi, guys.
Glad to have you.
Barry, you get a lot of feedback from people who read your column and read your paper. What is college football like in 2014? I would assume there's a lot of excitement with both teams drawing national attention.
Well, I mean, a lot of anticipation, particularly for the Sooners, the way they finished. You know, winning that Sugar Bowl has elevated Oklahoma's status back into the national limelight. Most people have OU in the top 5, and so that's where sort of the divine right of the Sooners. They feel like they ought to be, so they are there now. If they can, produce like that, then they'll be part of the new college football playoff. Everybody's fired up about. We've always, for 15 years, we've had a playoff. It was just a 2-team playoff, but now it's a 4-team playoff. So twice as many teams are going to be happy at the end of the season. So the Sooners are poised to be in there now. Oklahoma State is sort of have a rebuilding season, lose 7 starters on defense, but they've been the best team in the Big 12 2 of the last 3 years. They were the best team in the Big 12 last year. They just sort of lost their aggressiveness in the Bedlam game and let Oklahoma sneak up on them, and So their program is definitely arrived, but this is going to be sort of a retooling season for OSU.
College football has evolved to, if just when you thought it wasn't possible, that continues to elevate the head coaches. And of course, Oklahoma has two of the most well-known head coaches representing Oklahoma and Oklahoma State right now. And a lot of talk made about their salaries and their more attention and more responsibilities. Is ever escalation of expectations on coaches going to continue, or at some point it seems like it has to stop?
Well, it has to stop, but I don't know when it will. I mean, it's not close to stopping now. And what's happening is college football as a business is really increasing over the last 5-10 years. The people who make money in sports, whether it's through marketing, whether it's through media, whether it's whatever the case may be, they've recognized in the last 10 years that the number 2 sport in America is college football. Of course, number 1 is pro football. But there was the idea that 10, 15 years ago that NASCAR was coming on fast and was going to take over. And we've talked about the NBA's elevation in a lot of ways. But college football has sort of solidified itself. It's the number 2 sport in America, and it's big, big business. And that's symbolic of those salaries, because schools can't afford to fall behind, either in facilities and resources and support. And the surest way of doing that is hiring a guy that can produce. And Bob Stoops and Mike Gundy have done it. Some other guys have as well, and so they're amply compensated, and they're not printing that money on linotype machines. I mean, the money is there. That's real money they're giving those guys. Their checks don't bounce.
As the money increases in all aspects, as you said, of college football, what happens to the attention that's coming from the legal system? People now are looking at whether players should be unionized, and that's going to be obviously going to the courts. People are suggesting that in general, the college football is some sort of monopoly, and that's an argument that doesn't seem to go away. It just seems like we're just going to have a series of court cases, any of which could have a drastic effect on college football as we've known it.
Well, yeah, this kind of question, Mick, has all kinds of roots. Here's an example of the big business. The video game business is just out of control. The Ed O'Bannon case, which is currently being litigated, players say, hey, you're putting my likeness up there. Now, an example is when Landry Jones was an OU quarterback, they did not have the name Landry Jones as the Oklahoma quarterback on those video games. But the quarterback of that Oklahoma team was a 6'4", big, strong-armed guy, couldn't move very well, and his hometown was somewhere in New Mexico. So, I mean, it was Landry Jones, just not by name. And the people doing this lawsuit say, hey, this is really not for debate. You're taking the likenesses of these players and using them, and they're not getting any money. And so the NCAA is going to have some serious fallout. I mean, I think Ed O'Bannon and those that class action lawsuit is going to prevail in some form or another, and there's going to be a lot of money distributed in a lot of different places. The concussion issue is another one. You're making all this money, and for decades you didn't take care of the players, you didn't warn players, you didn't treat them right. So just a lot of different. When money appears, you guys know this better than I do. When money appears, people come out of the woodwork looking for it. So
do lawyers.
Yeah, I didn't want to say. But
well,
anyway,
they're not included within people.
Right. But anyway, this is not going away. These questions we're talking about are not going away, and it's just going to continue in a variety of ways.
I've seen a trend of the past 2 or 3 decades that as the problems between colleges, universities, students, and the NCAA increase, the power of the NCAA is diminishing, because every time they get challenged on something, they give up some control, and it doesn't happen again. They don't want to do it again, and the power of the NCAA is going down about the same way that the power of the individual universities and athletes is going up. There's a relationship, I think. Do you think that's going to continue?
Yes, I do, and of course you know a lot about this, Kent, with the television antitrust lawsuit from 30 years ago, in the way that the NCAA used to control football television. basically now the NCAA doesn't have much to do with football of any regard other than eligibility. But football, you know, that we now have a playoff. It's not an NCAA-run playoff. So if you let the NCAA run it, the NCAA would get some of the money. And the schools are smart enough to say, hey, we'll run it ourselves through the conferences, through the bowls. We'll control the money. So the NCAA is becoming less and less of a financial force. Yeah. It still has the basketball tournament, which is a huge moneymaker and which still funds the NCAA and all its many endeavors. But I do think we talked about the elevation of college football, its popularity and its big business status, that's only going to empower the schools and the conferences more and more.
Let's talk about the playoff system. What will happen this year at the end of the regular season?
Well, we've basically, it's basically a 4-team tournament using the bowls as semifinals.
How are the 4 teams selected?
We've got a committee. No more rankings, no more polls. It's much like the basketball committee. 13 people, most of them former coaches or administrators, a couple of outliers. Condoleezza Rice is on the board. So, even have a former sports writer on the board, which, you know, the world's going to hell over that. So, but anyway, it's going to be people sitting around and voting. It's basically a 13-member committee, and it's going to come under so much more scrutiny than the basketball committee ever did for 2 reasons. One, football's so much more popular, and only 4 teams get in. You know, if you stand on the hill and cry, hey, I didn't get in the NCAA tournament, I'm the 64th best team, I'm not the 65th best team, nobody really cares outside of your county. But everybody cares about who the 4th and 5th best college football teams. So this committee will be heavily scrutinized, but they will pick the 4 teams, and they'll play in the semifinals on 2 selected bowls, which will rotate over the course of a 3-year period. And then the winners meet at a neutral site, non-bowl type setting for the national championship.
Let's talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder getting ready to start another season. What'd you think of the off season?
Well, the Thunder rarely tries to win the summer. You know, lots of people try to win the summer, but the problem with winning the summer is they don't give out the trophy in the summer and until the next summer, till June of the following year. The Thunder generally plays it pretty tight. I thought, though, that in the Western Conference this year, if you'll notice, nobody really tried to win the summer. The Spurs stayed pat, which when you've got the best team is a good thing to do. The Clippers really had no major changes. They replaced one substitute with another. The Rockets took a step back. The Mavericks moved up a little. But the Thunder really made as many improvements as anybody. They signed Anthony Morrow, and he is a shooter unlike the Thunder's ever had. He's the 2nd best shooter in the NBA among active players, 3-point percentage. Everybody talks about Mike Miller and wants Mike Miller. That's because you've seen Mike Miller in playoff games, and you know he can shoot. Anthony Morrow's played on a series of bad teams. Nobody really knows he's any good, but he's a shooter unlike anybody the Thunder's had. He will help a bunch. So that's really the only major addition, and the Thunder is in good shape to contend again. Should be the best team in the West, I think, even with San Antonio. At some point, the Spurs are going to have to get old, and there's no reason why it can't be 2015.
We're going to take a break and be right back with Barry Tramel. We'll talk more about the Thunder and some other things going on in the world of sports.
When you have something important to communicate, it becomes clear that there's a lot of competition for your audience's attention. So how can your message stand out and actually resonate with your audience? Legal Graphics has the answers. The team at Legal Graphics will work with you to plan, design, and even test your presentation to ensure your message will be heard and remembered. Call Legal Graphics today to schedule an appointment. The readiness is all.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
We were talking about the Thunder when we took a break, and after several years of a lineup that's pretty much been in place, Thabo Cephalosha's not in it. There's talk that perhaps Perkins won't start 99% of the time like he has been. So it looks like there might be some shakeup at the beginning of the games.
It is a little bit of a change. The Thunder had the same starting lineup for 4 straight playoffs. Barring injury, the Westbrook and Ibaka injuries messed that up, but they went with that same 5 guys, and it worked great for them. But that's an eternity in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Most anymore, it's not 1966. That doesn't happen anymore. So this was bound to happen, and the Thunder said goodbye to Cephalosha and ready to use one of the new guys, I think, or one of the young guys as a replacement. They did not sign Anthony Morrow to start, so it'll be one of the younger guys going in for Thabo.
So is that Reggie Jackson? Is that Jeremy Lamb?
I think it won't be Reggie Jackson.
Okay.
I think they will keep Reggie Jackson as the 6th man, a backup point guard job, and and at the end of games, I think he'll be in alongside Russell Westbrook. But I think we saw when Reggie Jackson starts, which he did there, late in the playoffs, it just really gutted the Thunder bench, and they don't want to do that. They'd rather start the game with somebody that could match up defensively with the other team's best player. That would give Russell Westbrook a break. A lot of people think Andre Roberson will be the man to take over Thabo. Can't shoot a lick. He's a far worse offensive player than Thabo. But, boy, he gets after it on defense. He's young enough. Maybe he could develop an offensive game. I think Jeremy Lamb also has a chance to win that job.
When you look at all the goings-on with LeBron going back to Cleveland, what's your takeaway there with the way the East is rattled up?
The East has, we talked about the West pretty much stayed stable. The East has undergone a major change with LeBron. Anywhere he goes, he changes the balance of power. And Miami did a good job stabilizing, bringing in Luol Deng to replace LeBron. So Miami will still be relevant. Paul George's injury, the catastrophic injury, the broken leg, that just cripples the Pacers. So they'll fall down. The Bulls get Paul Gasol. So the Bull and Derrick Rose is back. So they are elevated. So the Cavs and the Bulls sort of become the 2 top teams in the East, with the Wizards and the Heat and maybe the Bobcats, somebody like that, challenging for 3rd, 4th, 5th. So sort of a mix-up in the East. The West is going to look a whole lot like it has been, with the Spurs, Thunder, Clippers, those 3 at the top, and the Mavericks and Blazers and Warriors, Rockets coming in from behind.
Reggie Jackson's contract ends next summer. When James Harden was in that situation, they traded him before the season started. When Russell and Kevin were in that situation, they signed him to long-term contracts before the season started. I don't remember a player who had as many options as Reggie Jackson would entering this final season.
Yeah, I think the difference between Jackson and Harden is I think the Thunder believes it can keep him without paying him outrageous salary, $14, $15 million. With that said, the salaries got out of control a little bit this free agency season. Yeah. So I think it's going to be a tough go to sign Reggie Jackson. But I know the Thunder loves Reggie. They think he's part. Sam Presti loves to talk about DNA. He's got the Thunder DNA. They believe Reggie Jackson is Thunder material, and they love his work ethic and his character and his personality. I think they will go to pretty far to keep Reggie Jackson. I would be surprised if he's allowed to leave.
If Perkins is healthy, will Steven Adams start?
I think he will, but I wouldn't bet a whole lot on it. The truth is, Kendrick Perkins is still a very good player and functional player, and he does the dirty work and he does the defense that it's hard to, for people like us to see. Yeah. Really keen basketball players know what he does, and he can be so frustrating on offense that he sort of gets you down. But the work he does on defense, and we saw it in the playoffs, you know, the Thunder neutralized the Memphis big men, Gasol and Zach Randolph, and that was Kendrick Perkins. He played very well against the Clippers as well. So he's still valuable and still needed. However, the development of Steven Adams gives the Thunder the luxury. I think Steven Adams is going to develop into a really good NBA center, and in some ways he already has. He played very well in the playoffs, a shot blocker. When he learns how to, you know, maneuver, pick and roll defense, he's going to be a fine center. I think the time is now to do that, especially if you go with a total defensive guy, and Andre Roberson in the starting lineup. Improving the offense at center in the lineup would help the overall product. So I would guess that Steven Adams wins the job.
Well, in just a minute we have remaining. Did Jason Kidd shoot himself in the foot this off season by changing jobs?
Well, that's odd. You know, guys, this is a guy that went straight from NBA point guard to NBA head coach.
Yep.
I thought that was odd. He lasted 1 year, ran afoul of management, sort of staged a palace coup that didn't work, wanted to be the general manager. I guess he's going to, in year 3, wanted to be the owner, I guess. Commissioner in year 4. He's just climbing the ladder. But the Nets told him to, you know, move on down the road. He ended up in Milwaukee, which is not a good situation. However, with, you know, they got some young talent. It's conceivable, but in the next year or two, the Bucks will be better than the Nets. So Jason Kidd, much like his playing career, very well could land on his feet. You know, he always found trouble as a player, but also landed on his feet. Got to the NBA Finals with the Nets, won an NBA title with the Mavericks at a very advanced stage.
We just got seconds left in the show, but tell people how they can get more from Barry Tramel. What are the media that you are currently
Well, a subscription to the paper is a good place to start, and newsok.com. I'm on there several times a day, blogging and video-wise. You can't keep a face like this off of video, so we do a lot of video work, and I'm blogging 3 times a day, and of course all my columns are on there too, newsok.com.
All right, and Twitter and
Twitter will deliver to you. I'll deliver my stuff via Twitter also.
So if you follow Barry Tramel, you get a link to his columns.
That's exactly right, but I'm talking more than I know about right now, so I better stop.
Barry Tramel wrapping up his 8th visit on The Verdict. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks,
we love it. Kent and I'll have a final word when we get back.
The human body, an amazing machine. What we're capable of is astonishing. If we look to what makes us human, we find that life is more than a heartbeat, and hope is more than an idea. That knowledge moves us forward, and our community keeps us together. OU Medicine is at its heart, keeping Oklahoma alive and well.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
We are a very conservative family, and we believe in old-fashioned family values. We have a loving home there, and we love kids, and we have 5, 6 of our own. But I had no idea we were going to go into adoption, but it's been very gratifying.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
We're back on The Verdict, wrapping up the show with Barry Tramel.
Yeah, we're really pleased to have Barry back on. You know, he's a unique individual in that he writes with insight, with humor, and with temperance. And those three things don't follow all sports writers all the time, but he's been able to master them, and he's a great asset to this city.
Access to Barry's work at Oklahoman.com. And we have a website we'd love to draw your attention to, theverdict.tv. Go to our website and tell us about a guest that you'd like to see on an upcoming edition, or a subject matter that you'd like to see us discuss. I thought it was interesting as Barry highlighted the many facets of the Thunder's operation this year, and how the last 4 seasons and that starting lineup is now somewhat in transition. And there's actually a lot of things to watch for in these preseason games and the early camp.
Yeah, it would be fascinating to see how it develops and who rises to the top and who can stay healthy.
And the fan base, how loyal will they remain, how patient will they remain, because the national media is now starting to draw attention on the fact that Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook have just a few years remaining on their existing contracts. And so you start to see this perceived window of the Thunder getting back to the finals again.
I predict the fan base loyal, absolutely, patient, not at all.
Well, they have been blessed with incredible talent with the Thunder management doing such a good job. That's going to do it for this week's show. We'll be back next week, and see you then.